The first question will be from Moscow, Efremova Maria. I have a question. How can we compare karma accumulated from past lives to karma from this life? What are the specifics? Which one is stronger and which one is more realistic to correct within this lifetime? Is it bad karma you were born with, or a specific act committed in this life that you deeply regret?
It is a good question. A good question is favorable karma. Dragging out the question is unfavorable karma. Overall, you did well. Indeed, they are different. Karma that comes from a past life has a more rigid, unavoidable nature, and it manifests in specific things. For example, a chronic illness does not originate in this life. Only an acute illness arises in this life. If you have a chronic disease, it definitely comes from your past life and was imprinted in your body from birth. You can observe your fate. For example, fate warns through parents. For example, if your parents have a troubled relationship, fate is warning you. You have heavy family karma related to marriage. It warns you. Parents argue and divorce. Fate is warning you. Then, as your own family life unfolds, fate works itself out, and through the lives of your children, fate strikes you on the head. If you didn't want to work through anything, then watch how your children suffer. This is the hardest thing to witness, even harder than working through your difficult fate. What are some other examples that could be related to past life karma? Some difficult periods in life. Let's say you're going through a difficult period in life. Like in the children's song, you never hit your grandfather, you loved him, but still they tease you, redhead, freckled, killed grandpa with a shovel. They constantly laugh at you and scold you. But you never hit your grandfather, you loved your grandfather. This indicates that it came from your past life. You're seemingly a good boy, but for some reason, you get put in prison. What's this? What's the matter? I've been slandered. Know that you must have done something bad, because if you go to prison, there must be a reason. No one can put you there for no reason. There is a reason, and the reason comes from past life, not from this one. All these slander, shame, cruelty, some kind of injustice. A girl, for example, lived a righteous life, and then suddenly she was raped. Why? She didn't go to bars. She was going home. She didn't do anything wrong. This all comes from past life. We have no guarantee in this life that something bad won't happen. Even if I live the right way now, because fate from past life still catches up. It is already evident that if a child is born with cerebral palsy, autism, a mental illness, a permanent disability, or any deformity, it all comes from past lives, not this one. In this life, we can only add to it. How does bad fate from this life manifest? You can only understand this when fate acts. Let's say you yelled at your wife, but seemingly it's a good period. You yelled at your wife and she decided to leave. It's a good period, and you told her, go ahead and leave. Wonderful. According to fate, separation is not meant to happen now. She wants to come back to you, feels the need, but you don't want her back. Those are your problems. It means there was no bad period in the past, there never was. You committed an action and now you got the response for it. You'll be punished for this later. Let's say you quarreled with your wife. Apologize immediately. Whether you're right or wrong doesn't matter. What's important is to preserve the family. If the family's preserved and she didn't leave, it means it's not from a past life. Now you quarreled with your wife and apologized. She left anyway. Means it's from your past life. In other words, you committed some action and you might have a strong reaction, disproportionate to the action. This means your past life has caught up with you. But if you committed an action and you repented, fixed everything, and everything got fixed, it means most likely it's from this life, not from a past one. And sometimes a person has a certain fate, something burdens them, and they pray and suddenly it all dissipates. This is from past life, but you manage to work it out. That means that sometimes you can overcome fate even from past life, but it requires much more effort than if it came upon you from this life. If you got into a fight with someone, ask for forgiveness. Otherwise, you'll get beaten up once more. This means you messed up in this life. If you haven't fought with anyone, but suddenly someone scratches your head on the street, it means it's from a past life. It always feels like a sort of injustice if the event comes from past life. The person doesn't agree with past life, doesn't agree at all. What comes from past life, they don't like it at all, don't like it in any way, but it must be accepted. We receive punishment not only for the bad things we've done in this life, but also for the past. For example, if the liver becomes sick, you ate something fried, overate. We had a celebration, blessed food. You ate fried food at night, thinking that it's blessed, so it should be okay. and then the liver suddenly hit back. Is this karma? No. This is not karma. This is your foolishness. You can't eat fried food at night. Whether it's blessed or not, you overate, you get liver problems. The spiritual result can be good. Food gives a spiritual result without a doubt, but it's not connected to the body, because from the body's perspective, this food was in ignorance. Fried food, or very fatty, or very sweet, it will hit the body, definitely. Why do I have diabetes? I ate blessed food. Blessed food elevates you, but since you ate sweets at night, you get diabetes, whether you want it or not. You need to use your head when doing something. If you see that the food is heavy, don't eat it, even though everyone around you is eating it at night because it is a feast, a kind of spiritual celebration. But you don't eat, just have a drink and that's all. That means use your head. Otherwise, you'll get consequences in this life, even if you're seemingly doing good actions. Without understanding how to do it properly, there will be a bad result. This is already in this life. If you ate something wrong in the evening, like fried food, and then your liver hurts for a month, it means that you already have liver problems from a past life. If it recovered quickly, let's say, you ate too much fried food, then you felt bad for a day, and then recovered. This means it was a warning, and you don't have bad karma for this. But if you ate a little bit of fried food at night, and then had liver problems for a month, it means you can't do this anymore at all, because you have bad karma. You no longer have the right to enjoy, so to speak. That's how everything works, my dear friends. Everything a person does in this life usually has no serious consequences in this life, most often, but there are certain exceptions. There are specific exceptions. Sometimes no one forced a person, yet they took someone's life, and in this life they might end up in prison for 10 years. But these would be your problems. No one forced you to kill. No one ever forces. I have bad karma, and I killed a person. No, no one forced you. Sometimes it happens that you don't want it. It happens without your will. Then it's a different matter. But if you consciously did it yourself, what does bad karma have to do with it? This is your choice, and you will be responsible for it. There are very bad actions for which one has to suffer greatly in this life. But this is more of an exception than a rule. Next questions.
It turns out that the participant from Kazan didn't come, but there's an interesting question about Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law in life, when you plan something, an obstacle inevitably appears. What to do? How to pass this lesson?
This means you have bad karma with planning. This is not Murphy's Law. There is no Murphy's Law. If you believe in Murphy's Law, it means you believe not in God, but in meanness. So you shouldn't be listening to Dr. Torsunov, or it will be like this. Hello, dear friends. Today I will lecture you on curses, the evil eye, and Murphy's Law. You should attend lectures of such people then. These people believe in ignorance, they do not believe in God, and their behavior is accordingly foolish. You can tell a lot about a person just by their eyes. When you go to a fortune teller, she looks at you with a concerned gaze. You've been cursed, son. She has probably been cursed herself since birth. And then she helps everyone. She passes on this knowledge, so to speak, in ignorance. The very phrase Murphy's Law means belief in ignorance. A person in the mode of goodness should not use such words. Instead, he says, I just have a bad fate related to planning. This happens. So plan more seriously, pray before planning, and overcome your fate. Sometimes you need to go where there is suffering. It's okay, it happens. If it's your duty, you need to plan, then go where there is suffering, and overcome your fate. Sometimes a person has to deal with something difficult, but if it's their duty, then it needs to be done, and everything will be fine. Don't be afraid of bad fate. Don't make conclusions from it. Murphy's Law means nothing will work out, because there is such a law. There is no such a law. Overcome your fate. The sky will clear up. Everything will be fine. But if you believe in such a law, then what can you do? It's a law. You can't change anything. But in reality, you can do something, if you want to.
Thank you, we will try. Now, breast. A question from Svetlana. There were 2 questions here. First, is everything that happens in our life, all events, karma? And you also talk about fate, right? Are karma and fate the same thing, or are they different?
Karma and fate are the same thing. Not all events that happen to us are fate. There is also grace. This is what I constantly talk about in my lectures, because astrologers say that everything that happens is fate. That is complete nonsense. Not everything that happens is fate. There is also grace. A disciple approached his spiritual teacher and said, "How many devout deeds have I done in my past lives to get such a teacher as you?" And the teacher said, In your past lives, you were in complete degradation, and only by grace that you have gotten me. And he told the truth. You, specifically you, yes, you were in complete degradation. You simply received such a teacher as me by grace. Such things happen. Sometimes a person has done many good deeds and receives a spiritual teacher, while other times they receive one simply by grace. Therefore, not everything in this life happens according to fate. Sometimes things happen by grace. That means that God simply helps a person. I had such a case, clearly not by fate, when I was supposed to give lectures in Astana. My assistant forgot my bag in the lecture hall. This was by fate. I was going straight from the lecture to the airport. This bag was left in the lecture hall when I arrived at the airport, and they could only bring it to me 50 minutes after the plane's takeoff. I missed my plane, and the next flight was only in 24 hours, and I would miss the lecture. I started praying to God, saying, Lord, help me. I want to give knowledge to your people. My assistant helped me realize my fate. What should I do now? And 5 minutes after the prayer, the power went out in the entire Terminal B. There are backup batteries there to prevent shutdown in case of emergency. Something happened and the batteries failed. Nobody understood what happened. All power in Terminal B went out. When they brought my bag to me, it was dark at the airport. The organizers came out and said, Dr. Torsunov, did you do this? I didn't do this, God did it. As soon as I took the bag, everything fell into place. This is how God works. It wasn't something destined for me. This is how God arranged it. And then he punished me for all this because I asked him. He said, maybe the lecture isn't necessary. In my heart, something was gently persuading me, not with words, but with a feeling that maybe I shouldn't do anything, that everything should stay as it is, and I shouldn't change anything. I said, no, I need to give the lecture. What if you'll have to answer for this later? It's okay. Fine. The power went out. But then on the way back, when flying from Astana, my assistant mixed up the flight time and we missed the flight. So karma came back already. I couldn't do anything. Although we arrived when check-in was still ending. It had already ended, and at the check-in counter there was a woman who listened to my lectures. She started calling everywhere, asking, saying, he's a good person. They said, no, we won't take him. And that's it. Everything's closed. The flight is closed. And I saw God's will in this. Fine, fly, here you go. But on the way back, you're meant to miss the flight, so miss it. Only going home, not to a lecture. This is how the Lord acts. These are also his actions. He can both give karma and take it away. Grace exists in this world. We need to know this, but this doesn't mean we can demand grace. God may give it or may not. He chooses himself, decides himself.
Thank you. Now Moscow Olga's group, go ahead. Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Dr. Torsunov, from everyone and for everything. Such a question. How is personal karma connected with family karma? And is such a situation even possible when family karma becomes better as a result of some activity, while personal karma becomes very heavy? Can this happen, or is it just some kind of misconception, and this cannot be?
You know, when uninformed, uneducated people use the word karma, they always do it to justify themselves. And therefore there have appeared many so-called innovations in this concept of karma, and all these innovations are designed to justify oneself. For example, this innovation which actually doesn't exist, that my parents ruined my life. Such a theme. It's called childhood trauma. Like I was so good, so great, and they went and gave me childhood trauma. And as a result, everything in my life has now gone wrong. Try to understand that even childhood trauma is the result of your past actions, and there's no need to blame anyone for anything. If you blame your parents, you are definitely in degradation. And you will get more for this. You should always accept your fate. The same goes for family karma. This is also a good term. I was born in this family, unlucky, and now I'm suffering. My mom has no husband, grandmother has none, great-grandmother has no husband, means I won't have one either. This is incorrect thinking. Family karma exists. You were purposely placed here because you behaved badly towards men, and now you're being punished with the difficulty of getting married. It's not that you won't have a husband, that's the wrong way of thinking. It's difficult to get married. It requires a lot of effort. It was difficult for your mother. It was difficult for your grandmother. That doesn't mean they couldn't create a family. They could. It was just difficult. They need to overcome their fate. And there's family karma. It means that this is the fate of this family. But first of all, you have your own free will. Second, sometimes family karma can be heavier than your fate, and sometimes family karma can be easier than your fate. This happens too. That doesn't mean that everything that happens in the family necessarily has to happen to you. You have your own fate and the family has its own fate, but you should not depend on family karma. Some people say, I was unlucky to be born in this family. That's not true. It means that you were born where you were destined to be. You should always understand that only my fate is acting within me. No one is to blame for what happens to me. Neither parents nor family, no one at all. That means that it's entirely my fate. It's my fault. Everything else is a fiction of modern people to justify us, to justify themselves.
Thank you very much.
Some people say, oh, I have such a difficult fate. It's all because of my family. I'm so good, but my fate is difficult. It's not because of me. It's because of the family. That's wrong thinking. Accept your fate, understand it's because of you, and you'll feel better.
Thank you. Novokuznetsk, Veronica. Hello, Dr. Torsunov.
Hello, thank you for your painting. I remember your gift.
Thank you very much. I wanted to ask if there was a relationship, but it wasn't very long, and it ended abruptly. Is it like bad karma that I've worked off, or is it something that needs to continue because there's still a very heavy feeling after all of this?
If we talk about men, the man himself makes efforts, offers efforts for the relationship. This means that a woman should neither be attached to this relationship nor reject it. She should be dignified, strong, and then she'll feel normal in it and get that man. If you did everything right, still he's left, that means karma worked. In your case, most likely bad karma worked. What to do next? You need to pray to God to ease this heaviness. After all, only God can make our life easier, free us from all attachments. And understand that a woman can be happy in this life even without a husband. She doesn't need to have one. One needs to be self-sufficient. Anyone should live happily with the things they have or without them. A person must learn to be happy, self-sufficient, no matter what conditions life puts them in. That's the way the world works. And if God gives us some fate, it always means that we can cope with it. We have the strength for it. The most important thing is to be happy. If you want to get rid of pain, you need to remember God strongly. This memory takes away the pain. And when it comes to men, relationships are selfish in nature. Whoever is stronger wins. If a woman is self-sufficient, strong, cheerful, independent of a man, then he'll stay with her. If she has lost herself, has become addicted to him, humiliates herself in front of him, feels she needs him, then she has lost this man. I am talking about excessive feelings. One should also know that if a woman violates certain rules of acquaintance, she loses a man too. For example, a woman shouldn't make excessive efforts herself to keep a man around, but nowadays some effort needs to be made. If you don't contribute to the meeting at all, then there may not be a meeting, but you should know that if a man needs it, he always gets it first. But these days there are men who are shy about getting their way. If that's the case, help him out a little. But if a woman falls in love first, and if the man hasn't fallen in love yet, then she loses the man. Anyway, you can propose marriage yourself if he was pursuing a relationship but then for some reason lost interest. You can propose yourself, you can drag him by the scruff of his neck into your apartment, whatever you like, it's not a problem. Nowadays everything is possible. Either civil marriage first, then persuade him to register officially. Something needs to be done, but if you fell in love first and he didn't, then you've lost a man. A woman should never fall in love first, she should observe. A good man, likable, interesting, but you shouldn't fall in love. Let him fall in love first. Fall in love after you get married.
Thank you very much.
If you fall in love, you stop being cheerful, active, happy, and beautiful. Let him fall in love first. When you get married, you'll relax, you'll fall in love then.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Torsunov. But still, how to understand that you've gotten rid of some specific bad karma?
The first is a feeling of a relief in your heart. The second feeling, how to understand that you've worked off your bad karma. Let's say the leg has healed. It wasn't amputated. How to understand. If your leg has healed, it means you've gotten rid of it. Or if your husband stayed, didn't run away, although he wanted to, and lives next to you, it means you've gotten rid of your karma. You healed your child, got rid of karma. How to understand that? Happiness has come. Victory over fate has come. Everything is good, nothing bad. It means you've gotten rid of it. The heart feels better, calmer.
Okay, thank you. Something else will come along later.
It's inevitable, yes.
Now Novosibirsk.
Good afternoon, Dr. Torsunov, and to everyone who's watching us. I have such a question. You talked about the sphere of fate, through which the soul looks at our material world. Where is our character located?
Now we're going to learn all about it. That's the next half of the lecture. That means I'm going to tell you all about it.
I see.
Wait, ask the following question if you have one.
Yes, I have one more question. The question is, you're talking about nitya karma. What to do, how to act, when you do spiritual practice in the morning, and periodically everything works out well. You get up early, do everything, but then it's like you get cut off and you don't have the strength to get up. Even though you do everything, you do asceticism practice and run.
It means fate has come. It's a sign. You don't want anything. And death comes just like that. If you, despite the fact that you don't want anything, still go, it means that you're surviving. It means that a person must overcome their fate. They shouldn't say, "Oh, what's this? What's happening?" There's nothing I can do. You need to know that nothing is happening. It's fate that has come. And at this time, you need to make more effort. How does a person find out what fate is? When it weighs you down and you start doing something at that time, then you can find out the volume of fate. It can be big, very big or small. When fate is weighing us down, that's when you need to act. And then you'll know how much things have been weighing you down and learn how to overcome them.
Thank you.
Alina Kabudinova from Tumazi has an interesting question. Dr. Torsunov, hello. I've been trying to lead a proper lifestyle for a long time, but for some reason I'm not getting anywhere.
Everything is working out. What do you mean it's not working out? It's been working out for exactly 2.5 years. You are developing, becoming better. Your fate is being cleansed. Your fate has been cleansed for 2.5 years. That's at a minimum.
Somehow I still feel like I'm doing something wrong.
It happens, we all do things wrong. It's normal. You don't want to dwell on it too much. It's better to focus on the path you're on. You should always be positive, never dwell on failure. Otherwise, it ruins your fate.
I see. So my direction is correct, right?
Oh, my dear, you know very well that your direction is the right one. Why do you ask me that?
All right, okay, thank you. Thank you, Alina. She's probably confused.
She's not confused. That's a good question.
It just sounded different in her case.
Now she'll be asking her questions too, but this is also a good question. Understand this thing, my dears. When a person has a difficult fate, they always lose themselves. They always lose themselves. This means that a difficult fate frightens a person first. It says, you won't succeed at anything. You have bad actions. You are bad in general. This is how difficult fate works, and a person shouldn't succumb to it. They shouldn't think of themselves as bad. They should just stand up, move forward, and ignore the fact that bad fate is acting. One must move forward, keep going, and fear nothing. Sometimes bad fate catches you for bad actions and says, look, you're a sinner. You can't do righteous things. Don't pay attention to it. Keep moving forward. You always do the right thing when you fulfill your duty. Do good deeds. Don't get lost. Don't lose heart. Don't dwell on your failures. Now your question.
She asks, what to do? You seem to understand. You have the knowledge of how to do the right thing, but you don't have the strength, and it's hard to do the right thing.
Excellent. That's a great question. If you notice that you have a hard time acting right, you should always do the same thing. You need to go where people act right. A person gets the strength to do the right thing only from other people. Remember that. That's why temples are built. That's why local prayer services are held. That's why spiritual books are written. So that a person learns to get strength when they don't have it. That's what is the right action, the right behavior. A person should always strive for this, out of all their strength, to preserve spiritual goodness and proper communication. This is the meaning, and this gives a person overcoming fate. That's the most important thing they should do in life. The guidance of the elders, the spiritual community, and everything that has to do with the opportunity to receive grace and strength, a person should do. And then they gain strength. Praying together is essential, so I'm teaching you to pray with the elders.
Now Talon, Natalia. Now my fate is such that I need to go to my ex-husband. We haven't lived together for 10 years, but he helps our son. The situation now is that I need to ask him for alimony. Because my son is already 19. He has entered university in Moscow. He needs money for his studies and living expenses.
Just tell your husband exactly what it is. What's so difficult about that? You need to say, we're short on money. Please help.
My husband is in such a situation himself right now that I know for sure that it's extremely difficult for him to give that money. And now I don't understand. It's his karma or mine. If I ask for money, he'll be under a lot of stress.
I have a question for you. What's your name?
Natalia.
Natalia, Are you under a lot of stress right now, helping your son study at the university or not?
Now I have to work as hard as I can.
So you're under a lot of stress, isn't that right?
Yes.
Was your husband under a lot of stress when he conceived the child? No? Or did he just enjoy it?
I understand he wasn't so terribly stressed out.
If at the time of conception he didn't feel much tension, now he needs to understand that if he conceived a child, he has to help them in life. Therefore, both parents will have to feel terrible tension. Don't feel any false pity. I mean, give him a choice. Ask him for money. If he doesn't give you money, it's okay. If he gives you money, that's good. That's his choice. If you sue for alimony and force him to get that money out of him, that's fine too. He shouldn't have conceived the child. Some conceive for pleasure and then just goodbye, but we don't conceive foals or stallions. It's a human being. A person needs to be raised. Give them an education. That's what duty is all about. If a foal was conceived, it would go to feed itself. It can feed itself from childhood. And even then it needs protection from all sorts of evil animals. Even a horse has a duty to its foal. When it comes to animals, the lioness, for instance, is the one who forages for food, not the lion. The lion only protects. It does the job of protecting all the cubs from predators. The lion is in charge of protection. He defends his cubs. And the lioness forages for food. This turns out to be not such a difficult task compared to protecting and supporting. Protection or support is more important. If help with studies is needed, the father should be in charge of that, not the mother.
The question sounded a little different, and it was more useful for everyone. Would it be bad karma if I required a person to fulfill such proper obligations?
It's not bad karma to demand that he give money for the child's education, even if it's going to be difficult for him. I can see that too. I saw from the very beginning that it would be very difficult for this person to give money for education, so I asked, was it difficult to conceive a child or not? When a person conceives, they must understand what they're doing. For instance, it's not difficult to drop an atomic bomb from an airplane. Just press a button and it flies. But it won't be easy to rot in hell for it later. Every time a person performs an action, they must understand that serious consequences await them. Even if the action itself isn't difficult to perform, the consequences can be severe. And so it's your duty to make him pay for your child's education. This is your duty, and if you don't fulfill it, you will face the consequences. Thank you all for the questions. All the questions were very good, important, on topic. I apologize if I'm being harsh at times. We do not have a completely formalized relationship, you might say. There's the classic mentor, when a person has agreed to receive guidance. And that person is called their mentor. It means the relationship is already established. We have a somewhat strange relationship. People often come to me as if for a lecture, but I'm not a lecturer. I specifically try to mentor people so their lives are changed, but I'm not such a mentor that you have to follow my instructions. You may or may not follow them. You're here to listen.